My mission is to change the narrative from war and Ebola, because that's really what people know about Liberia is war and Ebola, to these amazing stories that we have, these amazing views that we have, this amazing country that we have.
This is the Liberia of today.
When I came back to Liberia, it was definitely with the thought of rebuilding and reconstructing and supporting that process as much as I could.
And these are the women reframing the narrative.
My hope for the future is a rebranded Liberia.
This is Inside Africa.
So the purpose of my vlog today is to just change the narrative about Liberia. We've had some pretty bad press over the last few decades with civil war, Ebola. So not only am I trying to change the narrative, but I'm also trying to shine a light on positive stories.
Philimena Yuri is one of Liberia's most famous vloggers.
So I am a vlogger by chance. I moved home in 2017, and as I was preparing to leave, I was telling a lot of my friends in the US, I'm moving back to Liberia, and there were so many questions, what is it like? A lot of misconceptions. Are there lions, tigers, and bears in your front yard? So when I moved here, I started to vlog, and that was my intended audience at first. Greetings from Monrovia. I know it's been a while since I've checked in with everyone. This is the infamous Roosevelt Leroy Uri's house. But what ended up happening was my audience shifted. Hopefully we'll be moving back into. It went from me trying to show my American friends to showing Liberians who hadn't been home in 10, 20, 30, 40 years because of the war, what Liberia looks like today. I'm going to be your guide on this journey, and I hope you take my tips and tricks to make sure your transition to the continent is as seamless as possible.
Like many Liberians of her generation, the country's 14-year-long civil war forced Roida to spend most of her youth living outside the country.
Our generation, we're a post-war culture, right? Myself, I was born in the US, but I came back shortly after I was born and lived here till I was 4, and that's when the war started. And that is a common story for a lot of Liberians. And you always have this yearning, right? My father never left Liberia during the war. He was working here full-time, and he would come and visit us. So you always had that nagging feeling like, oh, that's my home. But now we're in a special spot where we are now open now to come back home and help rebuild our country.
At 31, she returned home, determined to use her voice and iPhone 8 to rebrand Liberia.
So we're here in Robertsport. This is one of my favorite places. I think it's the most beautiful place in Liberia. I love it. It is beautiful, as you can see, peaceful. And I always suggest this spot when you're talking about tourism in Liberia and what we're trying to promote and getting people to come here and visit. This is what we're talking about. This is Liberia. I am taking you on an exclusive inside tour of. When I first started this, I really didn't think anybody would even watch. And sometimes it can be a little discouraging, Hello and welcome to another episode of Philimena.com. They say if you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere. That's not if you can make it in Liberia, you can make it anywhere. It's all about women empowerment. Go girl. Oh, nope. My channel is about 900,000 views right now. So by the end of 2022, I'm hoping for 1 million views. That would be amazing.
Since launching her vlog 5 years ago, Roida has become a household name, being affectionately referred to by locals as Liberia's Oprah.
You ladies do a great job. Thank you for this. This is good. I really hope one day I do get to Oprah's level, but I think that, people are just excited to have this outlet and this platform, because how would we get these stories out? A lot of the times the media wants to show the negative, and there's a whole lot of negative, here in Liberia, but I have chosen to show only the positive.
And she says one of her all-time favorite stories was on the Liberian Youth Orchestra.
I was at the Lone Star Music Awards about 2 years ago, and the opening act was a youth orchestra, and they played for me, and I just had chills, and my eyes were welling up. One of the things I think that's unique about my show is I'm actually seeing these things for the first time too, so we're all exploring together. This ain't no bridge. What is this?
For Roida, perhaps the greatest result of her vlog is hearing how it's inspired others to return home too.
I do think I'm making a difference, even if it's on a small level. I'm just happy that I can change one person at a time or a few, and that's what really, really pushes me.
Liberia has a history of storytelling, and these stories can be used to either break or unify. So as artists, it is our duty to use our stories to unify our people. So tell stories about the past that reflects greater future.
Beulah Nimene is on a mission to shift the Liberian narrative, one word at a time.
I do not want to feel the need to be small, to shrink to a pea size besides the times I'm coiled up in my own bed. I do not want to be small. Like the Barbie doll my mother bought as my kindergarten graduation present, pretty little Barbie doll with no say in what goes on around her. Pretty little, shrinking little Barbie doll living by the life of others, not saying a word, but that's besides the point. My point is, I want to be big. I want to walk into a room with a smile on my face. This I do not want to be taken from me. I want to be big, big, like Ducal Hotel, sitting on top of a hill, awesomely on display. I do not ever want to be hidden. I think myself the sun. Now, how can you ever hide the sun? Stop me from shining, rising, falling at will, my will. I think myself many things. The skies above, the ocean beneath, the graceful lands beneath my feet, gracefully, fertily extending into everything, building upon myself a solid foundation. I think myself many things, but never a pea or a monster seed. I am big, big enough for the world to see and hear. Our generation is telling the story of resilience, of mights, of our ancestors. We are not afraid to break barriers and speak on taboo topics that were not talked about before. We are bringing these things to the national scene because we believe that once we can talk about the things that hurt us and the things that plague us, we can move past these things to become a better nation. Women are powerful and strong and resilient. I learned that from looking at our mothers. They inspired me to dream big and do big things. Like, I believe that women have the power to change things because of our nature of being change makers and breakers of stereotypes and stuff.
Beulah says one woman in particular inspired her journey.
Ellen Johnson Sirleaf she's just amazing. First, she's a trailblazer, she's a go-getter. She broke the stereotype of the fact that women can't lead at the front. She led from the very front, the first female president in all of Africa. And in 2018, before she turned over power peacefully, I had the chance to perform for her, and that was one of the best days of my life.
For Beulah, who spent her childhood in a refugee camp in Ghana, writing has always been her most powerful outlet.
My name would never go down in history for second place. No one is to see me break. I only get one try. Yet, I broke. Like pencil pressure to paper, flip the page, I rewrote. I write more self-reflective pieces, and I want people to believe more in themselves and in their voices and in their power. So I'm saying I believe in my voice and my power and my identity as a Liberian, and so can you too. I want people to be able to connect to their identities and who they are.
Today, she creates spaces for artists to express and connect, share and create.
We are at Cashel Courtyard, and we are having an open mic night. Artists, performers, and just people who are willing to open up and talk about their feelings and stuff and everything.
Succeed in man or woman. Go free. Thank you.
Liberia has a story to be told. And I feel like in order for us to be able to tell those stories, we need more artists, people willing to tell those stories. Liberia is going through a stage of industrial revolution, and that's inclusive of the arts. So when we can get more artists to tell the Liberian story to the rest of the world, I believe that we can be heard on an international stage.
They say time fades, memories so. I'm hanging on the ticking clock, hoping that one day I will be rid of you and all these memories be gone. But as they say, all good things must come to an end, and I guess we are no exception. That I have come to terms with. Thank you.
The narrative of Liberia today is resilience. There is something in us that we're gonna keep pushing forward as much as we can to make it work. With as little as we have, we make it happen.
Roida is using her platform to share these stories with the world, from entrepreneurship to arts to fashion.
When you think of Liberia, you don't think fashion capital of the world, you know? But I like to show that one thing about me is, and people who follow me know, I love to dress up. I love to be glamorous, even though it can be quite difficult considering the heat. We have our main designers that have been here and been dominating the fashion industry in Liberia for years, and they're amazing, and I work with a lot of them. But I also think it's very important to shine light on up-and-coming people.
And one of those is Adrienne Tingba, designer and owner of Kulukwa Collective fashion label.
Hi, give me a hug. Oh my God, girl.
The fashion scene in Liberia is in a stage of self-discovery in that Liberians are trying to see where do we fit in, what do we wear. So the idea behind the Kulukwa Collective is that trying to merge the past of Liberia with the present and trying to prepare for the future. So you see that a lot in the clothes that I make, where I use indigenous materials such as raffia or beadings or sometimes rice bags and little things like that, because as I grew up in Liberia, those are the things that I saw people wearing. So for me, it's very important that wherever I go, I showcase some way that I'm Liberian, I'm from Africa.
Promoting women is central to not just Roida's work, but Beulah's too, who runs an educational financial aid program for young girls.
We are at Hotel Africa, Blessed Community, and in 2018, my class and I visited here for a field trip. In 5th grade? Really? That's nice. What about you, question? I started my financial aid in 2017, and then when we visited, I saw a need to extend it to this community because there are a lot of amazing students here, and I feel like everybody should have the rights and the access to education, so I decided to extend it here. It's important for me because I feel the need to touch people's life, and I think education emancipates, and that's the only way we can build ourselves as individuals in Liberia. So I believe that we all have to have that right to be able to be informed so that we can know what choices to make as people with regards to voting, life choices, and every basic choice of a person's life. In 2017, at the age of 18, I started a financial aid program for underprivileged kids. So every year I have an annual poetry event geared at raising money for these kids to go back to school.
And Beulah's not the only one blazing a trail in education.
We're at the Fendel campus of University of Liberia. I teach gender studies here. Primary data on university students, faculty, administrators, the gender breakdown. For me, academia was the place that I went because I had a PhD. And definitely when I started, I was the only female professor in the department, and I really felt that my presence was needed and very much appreciated. And I remember one day one of my male students telling me, at the end of the semester, now that I see you teaching, I think that my girls can do anything. I hadn't really thought about that before. And that for me was a really pivotal moment where I thought not only the student directly is impacted, but the children of the student is impacted because they've seen a woman teaching and now they think that their daughters can accomplish things.
Women in general, right? Like, let me just say this, around the world, we run everything, right? But women in Liberia, from the market women to, you know, the nurses, to everything, they are so pivotal to the functioning of our society. Of course, I'm a woman, so I already believe that we can do everything, but we really do. We really do. We still have a long way to go, and as you continue to follow Liberia's future, women are always going to be in that storyline.
Welcome to Tanya's Creole Bistro. Today we're having a tasting dinner, and so we're in the heats of the preparation to get everything ready for tonight.
Academic, restaurateur, singer. This multi-hyphenate is on a quest to break down barriers.
The heart of these dinners is really finding time and space to get together, to have a wonderful meal, to have a different perspective, to see Liberia in a different way, in a different light, and to rediscover Liberia in a way by seeing all of the things that we have to offer. So we're gonna go to Benson Street Market. It's a local market in town where a lot of goods are. How much for you? What's that new one? That £1? Okay, let me get £2. How much for the passion fruit? Chinch, you got 10? Let me see. Well, carrots, cucumber, green beans, spring onion, that one. You got mint? Okay, let me take mint from you. Thank you. Thank you. Y'all, thank you. For appetizer, we're gonna have a coconut pumpkin bisque, and we're making the coconut fresh. And then we're gonna have a wood ear mushroom quiche. Then we'll have 2 entrees. We'll have a cassava fish fillet, pan-seared with a sweet potato puree. And we'll have a chimichurri sauce. And then we'll have a potato greens ravioli. And that one's really particular, and it's one of our favorites because potato greens is one of the favorite Liberian dishes. We make homemade ricotta and then stuff that into a homemade ravioli. And then for dessert, we'll have a mango or plum, as we call it in Liberia, sorbet, and then we'll have a German chocolate cake.
Tanya says her culinary journey began at home, guided by her grandmother.
Well, you know, for a refugee family, for us, I think cooking was a way of just keeping us connected to being Liberians. I'm a child of the 80s, and so I grew up in a very peaceful time in Liberia, at least up till about 9. And then the Civil War started, and so I became a refugee in the US. And I was raised by my mom and my grandma who were there, and then my dad who stayed here in Liberia the whole time. My grandma kind of taught me everything that she knew. And so I think for her it was a way of reminding us who we were and that we should go back and that we had to come back. And I think that was part of my desire to come back in the end because I'd been raised in the US with that mentality of, you're a refugee, you must go back, you must rebuild, you must go back.
And she did. Tanya returned to Liberia shortly after completing her PhD and joined the faculty at the University of Liberia.
I just thought it's the perfect time. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf was the first female president on the continent, and I had this degree that was perfectly suited for this country at the time. I had studied also gender studies, post-conflict studies, and so it just seemed like a good place to come and contribute and have some impact and be part of the reconstruction. Because to me, public is free, right? So that's
Whether it be in a classroom or in her restaurant, Tanya is creating safe spaces for people to learn and unlearn, connect, discover, and share.
Liberia is still healing from the war. It's still healing from all of the divisions that took us to war, and definitely I see part of my role as healing. So we're really excited to be here. This is definitely our space. We're so grateful that you're here. For a few of you, welcome if it's your first time. I definitely think we serve soul food in some way, and we create a space, and we're very intentional about what we cook and how we cook it, and we really want it to be a space where people can come, connect, meet new people, network, and also have a positive experience, because I think oftentimes we're caught up in the negative. It's a really important space that we create for us to see things differently, to have a different perspective of Liberia and to enjoy it differently.
Started by Tanya and her cousin, today these pop-up dinners are a whole family affair, and everyone who's anyone hopes to be invited.
Oh, everybody's involved. My mom is involved, my sister will be singing, sometimes my uncle Dave joins, he plays the percussion and the trumpet. It's definitely a family and a community restaurant, and we survive on our community here. Our network is really what makes Liberia beautiful and what makes it sweet, as we say in Liberia. It's the network, it's the community.
And just like Tanya, Roida, and Beulah, everyone here is unified in a shared vision.
I think there's definitely a spirit of repatriation here. People who have lived elsewhere and who've chosen very intentionally to be in Liberia and to spend their time and their energy and their money in Liberia and to rebuild Liberia. And so we, I think, come with that intention to make things better.